A house of horrors found in Boston. And is the media trying to deliberately cover it up? Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends. I've been meaning to get to this story now for the last couple days. Alas, there have been a lot of other things going on. But this is not just a local story. Ho, ho. It has gone national and in many ways international. So, and the media, it is the most underreported story, one of the biggest stories, and the liberal media now doesn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And it's quite obvious because it shatters the entire narrative of the so-called transgender LGBTQ community Pride Month. So what have they been telling us now? Not just this entire month, frankly, every month. It's been relentless. We need to have drag queens. Drag queens in libraries. Drag queens at schools. Drag queens around kids. Drag queens, drag queens, drag queens. That this is now the next frontier of tolerance and diversity and compassion. Well, listen now to this. In a Boston public housing complex, South Boston to be more precise, there was a call to the Boston Fire Department first responders. A person apparently had suffered a cardiac arrest. They went to the apartment complex and they found a dead person, a dead man on the floor. And then when they walked around and looked, according now to first the Boston Fire Department, then the Boston Police Department, all the first responders on the scene, their words, not mine, they were absolutely shocked. This extremely unsanitary conditions. They found 6 adult men, biological men, all of them wearing wigs, drugs, alcohol, sex toys, everywhere. Apparently, it was a transgender drag party, and it was going on all weekend long. But when they asked, are there children here? Everyone lied. They denied there was any children, nothing to see here. This is just consenting adults, and we are rocking and partying like you've never partied before. Except when they went to the back bedroom, they didn't find 1, 2, not even 3. They found 4 kids, ages 5 to 10 years old. And they were being hidden in the back bedroom by an adult male wearing a wig. They immediately knew exactly what was going on. And so they notified the police. The police came on the scene. My friends, here is exactly now what the police are saying. That apparently the person lying dead on the floor had overdosed. They had been using drugs and alcohol. They were engaged in a mass orgy. They were using sex toys. And now the children have been taken away. They are now under the care of the Department of Children and Families, DCF. But it's obvious the children were being sexually exploited and abused. And this was going on underneath the nose of the Boston Public Housing Authority. Or to be more accurate, the Boston Housing Authority, BHA, which runs these public housing complexes all over Boston. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to open it up to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. As many people now who've heard about it and those that were on the scene, what they saw was something almost out of a horror movie. Beyond sickening, beyond horrific. The squalor, The drugs, when I say everywhere, everywhere. Sex toys, everywhere. These were perverted, sick, mentally ill men dressing up as women. And clearly, the children were there to be preyed upon again and again and again. And worst of all, had they not died, had one of them not died from an overdose, we don't know how long this would have gone on. Frankly, to this day, we don't know how long it's been going on because the children are so traumatized. They almost don't even want to speak. That's how traumatized they are. Now, what I don't get is this. Boston Housing Authority is supposed to have regular, annual, even biannual, twice a year, inspections to see if everything's up to code, everything is fine, people are there who they say they're supposed to be there. Everyone is asking the obvious question. How can you overlook this? How can you overlook drugs being routinely used? Alcohol, sex toys, children. Nobody noticed it was full of children? Nobody noticed that these guys were dressing up in wigs and partying night after night after night after night? Nobody sees anything? Nobody knows anything? Nobody does anything? I want you to listen now to Boston City Councilor. This is the president of the Boston City Council, Ed Flynn, on the Boston House of Horrors. Roll cut 6, Mike.
It's horrific. It's inhumane. It's a house of horrors. But I think there was a lot of drugs and alcohol in and around the children and the adults. So it's a very disturbing incident. It's horrific.
No, it's more than that. And I'm going to get to that in a second. It's all of that, no question. But it's more. And this is the elephant in the room nobody wants to touch. But before I get to that, listen now to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. Michelle Wu came out and said, well, if by accident, if the guy hadn't dropped dead of an overdose, i.e. cardiac arrest, and they hadn't called the police, who knows how long this would have continued to go on. Roll cut, let me see here. Roll cut, cut 5, Mike.
Boston police were on scene almost immediately, and this was a situation that was almost discovered in some cases by it almost felt by accident, and it's quite concerning.
It's quite concerning. It's quite concerning. I swear what is it with Democrats? I've got to ask that. Democrats and pedophiles. Like, this is the hill now they want to die on. It's frightening what they're pushing in the schools. And it's beyond dispute. What they're pushing to kindergartners, to first graders, second graders, third graders, the vile filth that they're now willing to push. And it's like, it's quite concerning. No, it's a little bit more than concerning. Okay? So, here is what we have. We now have a movement, let's be crystal clear, that now wants to sexually abuse and exploit children. That's why they dress up in wigs. That's why they dress up like women, to make themselves come across as less threatening and less menacing. But make no mistake about it. When they're working a pole in front of your 3, 4, 5-year-old kid, when they're dressed in provocative stockings and in lingerie, and they're twerking and gyrating and making sexual movements and making sexual noises in front of young toddlers and children, it's not funny. It's not. It's sick. It's perverted. It's borderline child molestation. And I'm telling you, it's sexual abuse of children. I'm sorry, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I know you don't want to hear this, but somebody's got to say it, man. And This is now what they are trying to foist on the American people. And the horror is, the more they try to mainstream and normalize this, as they're desperately trying to do, the more you're going to see the house of horrors that we just saw in South Boston, where you've got 6 adult men cross-dressing with wigs, partying, drinking, getting stoned with sex toys, and they're sexing each other. And to me, the most disgusting thing of all is they're sexing the kids. Now, who stands for the children? Who protects these poor innocent children? Now they're going to be in the hands of DCF, and once they get into the foster care system, God knows what's going to happen to them in there. When is the American people, when are parents, when are concerned citizens going to get, frankly, outraged enough to say these are sick, perverted, demented people who need to be pushed back into the closet? Enough is enough. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, we're going to have to go there. They're forcing it upon us. They're forcing it upon our children. And if we don't stand up now, I am telling you, it's going to be too late. This is one of the issues that defines a civilization. And that is, do you allow your children to be molested? Whether it's physically molested, emotionally, psychologically molested. But what we're now witnessing is something so sick, so evil, so frankly, so diabolical, so depraved. And it's now, and the Democratic Party is embracing it whole hog. That's why they don't know what to do with this story, because this blows up their entire narrative that drag queens are innocent, that it's all good, wholesome fun, that it's no big deal. Yes, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids should have access to them and be sexualized by them. This is just sexual entertainment. It's no big deal. Have them in schools, have them in libraries, have them wherever. In Boston, at a public housing complex, investigators, fire department, police department found what it can only be described as a house of horrors. 6 men were partying. They were transgendered. It was a drag party. It was drug fueled. There were drugs everywhere. Alcohol everywhere. Sex toys. I don't want to get into the descriptions of these sex toys. Everywhere. We are talking about perversion and depravity on a level you cannot imagine. Okay, it's satanic. One of them got a drug overdose, got a heart attack, dropped dead on the floor. They continued to party with a dead body. They were partying. Then in the morning, at about something like 11 o'clock in the morning, after their orgy and drug and alcohol fueled party went on for hours and hours, they go, hey, Henry's not moving. What the hell happened to Henry? Henry's been dead for like 10 hours. And so they finally had to call 911. And so the first responders arrived on the scene. By the way, his name is not Henry. I'm just making that up. I don't know. They haven't released the names of all of them. The point is, X was on the floor. And when they walked in, the first responders said it stunk. It was filthy. It was dirty. Quote, extremely unsanitary conditions. That's what the report stated. They've never seen something this filthy and this dirty. Then they saw the drug paraphernalia, the drugs, half-open bottles of alcohol everywhere, and then grotesque sex toys. And they could tell by the sex toys that children must have been involved. And so they began to ask immediately, are there kids here? Now, all of the men were dressed up as women and dressed up in wigs and makeup and stockings and high heels and the whole drag kit and caboodle. And they could tell by their reactions, they all denied it, that, nah, they're covering something up. So they began to look in the rest of the apartment. And in the back bedroom, in the closet, they found 4 kids. Terrorized. Absolutely terrorized. Of ages 5 to 10 years old. And there was an adult male wearing a wig, lipstick, makeup, the whole bit, in sexual attire. And he was trying to cover them so they wouldn't be seen. And then when they said, who are these kids? One of them lied and said, no, they're my kids. All of them are my kids. I go, really? All 4 of them are yours? Really? Anyway, now DCF has gotten involved. It now looks quite obvious that those children were abused. Let's not mince words. Those children were molested, probably repeatedly molested. And how is this not front page every newspaper in Boston? How is this not leading every local media outlet? How is this? I mean, this should be the biggest story in the entire city, frankly, in New England. And yet it isn't. It's being deliberately underreported. And they want to sweep it under the rug as quickly as possible. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because those drag queens in that apartment is what they're telling you should be accepting for your children. They're the ones who are saying, yeah, read them a bedtime story, do drag queen story hour, let them come to the school. That's right, mommy, bring your 2-3-year-old. Yeah, it's just good, innocent fun. These are sick, demented perverts. And ultimately, I've been saying this now for a while, and the evidence is irrefutable, and that's why liberals can't argue with me except try to take me off the air. They're pedophiles. Ultimately, what they want is to mainstream sex with children. That's what this is all about. Now, if we don't protect our children from animals like this, and that's what they are, sick, demented, demonic animals, we're useless. We're useless. And this is why they're pushing pornography, adult pornography, into the classroom, into elementary school, to grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. That's why they're grooming and sexualizing children. That's why they're also pushing this trans garbage to confuse these children and their identity and telling them, no, you're not a boy, you're a girl. No, you're not a boy, you're not a girl, you're a boy. You're not a boy, you're a girl. And tell them, you should mutilate your own body. This is a war on children.
No child should be exposed to what these children were allegedly exposed to.
You think? You think? That was Massachusetts State Senator Nick Collins. He's from South Boston, where this housing complex is located, reacting to what can only be called a house of horrors. Why the media is downplaying it is, to me, absolutely disgraceful. Really disgraceful. In order, again, to provide cover for the transgender radical left agenda. Because this blows their narrative sky high. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you 2 questions. 1, what do you make of this house of horrors? How come it took someone dying at this drag queen orgy, that's what it was, this drag queen party, for the police to come and uncover this? Why weren't inspectors able to find this? I mean, there's supposed to be a rigorous process. They're supposed to know what's going on in these apartments. It is our taxpayer money that funds all this. And number 2, ultimately now, are they after the kids? If we continue to normalize and mainstream these drag queens, transgenders, who obviously are now deliberately targeting children, ultimately now, do they want to decriminalize and normalize pedophilia? Is this now where we have to take our stand? 617-266-6868. CJ in Boston. Thanks for holding, CJ, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and thank you for reporting on this very important issue. And a special thanks to Turtle Boy for exposing what's going on. Jeff, you're absolutely right when it comes to the mainstream media. Again, they're being controlled by City Hall and not reporting the story either accurately or suppressing the story. This should be a story that resonates across the United States of America, especially to those mothers and fathers who have young children. What the Boston City Council is representing those communities, and that would be Flaherty and Flynn and Collins, need to do, they need to propose legislation to make this a criminal offense. Not only giving these people a fine, they should be placed in jail. Make no doubt about it, have no doubt that this is not only a sexual but a political agenda by these people seeking special rights, other than what they have already protections under the Constitution. They want special rights to do what they want to do. And I believe that you're right. The absolute end game is to be able to sexually get involved with young children and to make it legal to do so. Every parent in the city of Boston right now should be calling on the Boston City Council and the mayor's office to be holding public hearings on this issue. However, as you said, it is being suppressed, and it is being suppressed purposely by the media, by City Hall, by city councilors, and the elected representatives that represent the city of Boston. This is a disgrace. It is a disgrace for the city. It is a disgrace for this country. And what I believe they're doing, they're trying to break this country in many ways. They're trying to break it spiritually, morally, financially, and this is just another case of the Democrats pulling one out of their hat. But when you have elected officials who are gay, and as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with being gay, that are promoting this, that march on these marches, you have to ask yourself, with 330 million people, and only 7% of all LGBTQ, transgendered, and everyone rolled into one ball only account for 7% of this population. Why do they get so much play? Why are they all over the television, all over the radio, all in ads, selling clothes to children? The reason is this is an effort to undermine this very country. And as I would just like to say this, Jeff, is that I believe in Massachusetts and on public grounds you can only fly the American flag and the POW flag on public-owned property. Anything else should be excluded for that. Otherwise, people will be suggesting that certain flags be flown on City Hall. You know that they got sued on not flying the Christian flag. And this is going to lead to something much bigger. But this is in the hands of the parents of the children of the city of Boston and throughout.
I really agree. No, CJ, I think you're dead on. Look, this is now, I think, beyond government. This is now, it's really up to the parents. It's up to families. It's up to fathers, mothers, parents, concerned citizens. Frankly, the victims, children who were sexually abused, I can't believe that more of them are not speaking out against this, saying, what happened to me was so horrific. These children never recover. They never recover from something as horrific and devastating as that. And everyone is deliberately turning a blind eye in the name of wokeness and political correctness. And ultimately, this is a battle against the devil. Look, I'm telling you, at its most basic level, this is good versus evil. This is God versus the devil. This is Satan. When you see that house of horrors, the only thing missing, I'm not kidding, is a picture of Lucifer on the wall. This is hell. This, to me, if you were to say, what's hell? That apartment complex is hell. That's what it is. And nothing. It's mind-boggling. I don't know what else to say. CJ, thank you so much for that call. Look, honestly, any other time, any other era, hell, even 20 years ago, never mind 30, 40, 50, 60, any other time, there would be such massive uproar. There'd be such a firestorm. People would be stopping their cars and yelling out on the highway. I'm not kidding. City Hall, the phone lines would be melted down. The media, if they didn't report on it, would be inundated with calls. Like, you're going to lead with this, and we want to know the names of these 6 people, these 6 perverts with the wigs and these drag queen guys. Instead, it's unfortunate. It's concerning. We're looking into it. And the children have been shipped off to DCF. What's your problem? There are some things you just don't do. This is one of them. And again, nobody speaks for the children. No one. The children are innocent. Look, you know me, my position. You're an adult. I don't care what you do. Honestly, I really don't care. What you do in your home is your business. You want to wear a wig. You want to wear stockings. You want to walk around and prance in women's underwear. You want to, whatever. You want to have sex with 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys. Hey, listen, I think it's sick, but that's up to you. Okay? I'm a live and let live kind of guy. But when you start involving children, no. I'm sorry, man. Now you're crossing a line. And this is where we are. Now, the pride flag is being flown on government property, not just in Massachusetts, in many states across the country. And I'm telling you, their goal is, and it's not just the pride, it's that they've also included the transgender symbol and the transgender flag and weaved it into the pride flag. So what they're doing now is they're flying the transgender pride flag. And that's what they want. They want the transgender pride flag to eventually replace and supplant the American flag. That's the goal. That's the revolution. And that's why now they're pushing this so hard. And I want to ask Democrats, no, really. So pedophilia, sexualizing, grooming our children, now sexually molesting and raping and violating our children. This is the hill you want to die on? Like, really? This is now, that and reparations, I swear, are the 2 issues now that Biden and the Democrats are fully embracing. And you've got Biden, the White House, doing official videos during so-called Pride Month. They're all our children. Every one of them. In other words, if you want to sexualize your kid, you want to groom your kid, you want to bring your kid to some drag queen and they, twerk their ass right in front of your kid's face, that's great. Hey, start them young. And this man calls himself a Catholic? Why the hell hasn't the Pope excommunicated this guy? So, I want to ask you, we have now discovered the ultimate house of horrors. 4 children at a drag queen orgy, party, sex toys, drugs, alcohol. It went on and on and on. One of them partied so hard, died of a drug overdose, was lying on the ground dead, and they still kept partying for hours and hours and hours with a dead body. Your calls next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Anthony in Middleton. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Jeff, my town of Middleton, Mass. is having an emergency meeting today because the books that were prescribed for the young elementary kids to read this summer, they might as well have issued them copies of Hustler magazine. It's so disgusting. But guess what our school committee, which fights for the parents, are doing today? They have the meeting scheduled for 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. If I have any advice for people out there, all your school committees are nothing but a fraud. Every year, vote for this one. He's conservative. He'll fight for your kids. You know what? Whatever the teachers' union's pushing is what's going to happen. Your teachers' unions are a waste of time. We got kids in these schools that think they're cats and they're demanding litter boxes. We got kids running around with rainbow capes. They're advertising pride parades in Masco High School in Boxford, where my kids went, and one daughter goes who's not going anymore because I'm going to homeschool her, which is against all the Masco rules that the teacher posted this advertising, but not one person at the school committee demands the firing or resignation of that teacher. I am sick of the school committees. You people yank your kids out of these public schools or do what the teachers do all the time when they punish your kids. Go on strike. Strike in front of that school. Don't send your kids to school. Let the teachers pay the price and get them all fired because they're all in the same. I paint them all with a broad brush, Jeff. This is disgusting. It's perversion. And the Democrats should really be called Democrats because you don't see the Republicans pushing this crap.
Oh, no question. In fact, I would call them pedocrats. No, really. Because now we're going into pedophilia now. We really are. And, Anthony, what I would recommend is, I know it's hard for people to take an afternoon off from work, but you know what? Show up at 2 o'clock today. If they want to play these ridiculous games, everybody's too busy working, to pay taxes, feed their families, put food on the table, pay their bills. No. Call your boss and say, you know what? I'm sorry. I need the afternoon off. And everybody should inundate that meeting. And I know exactly what you're talking about, Anthony, because they're pushing this in almost every school, not just in Massachusetts, but around the country. And the books that they're pushing to the kids are so graphic. I was thinking of reading just a little bit, and that's what they're pushing to like third graders, fourth graders. I couldn't read it on the air. Anthony, if I read it on the air, the FCC would hammer me with millions of dollars in fines. Most of you would rightly just turn off the radio because Jeff, I can't hear this. Never mind the graphic pictures. And they're showing pictures. I'm going to really clean it up, okay? Really clean this up. 12, 13-year-old kids in graphic pictures. Sodomy? How to do sodomy? Oral sex? It's just, and some of the characters are deliberately much older than the kids. They're trying to pass them off like they're 17 on a 13, but the 17 looks more like 21, 22, 25. So what they're trying to do now is blur the lines. Here's basically an adult having sex with a child, but it's okay. It's okay. And they're trying to put this into the eyes of kids, into the minds of kids, because they want the kids to think it's normal. It's okay. If a grown-up wants to touch me here and touch me there and fondle me there and diddle me there, it's okay. That's what they're really doing. That's the ultimate goal and agenda. Now, if that doesn't get you off your ass, and in front of that school board, and in front of that school, then honestly, I'm sorry, I don't know what will. Now, I know what many of you are thinking, but it hasn't hit my child. Yes, yet. Yet. It's coming. It's coming. It's like cancer. It's like a plague. It's coming. It's inevitable. So it's in towns and cities all across the country, all across Massachusetts. And I just got to say this. We are now in Massachusetts. We're right there with California. This house of horrors now that they've discovered, we are now the California of the North Atlantic. I mean, it's a race to the bottom. And I know there's Oregon, and I know there's other states that are really crazy liberal. But really now, it's Mass and California. Who can get to hell first? It's a race to the bottom. Who'll make it to the pits of hell first? 617-266-6868 is the number. Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, Jeff? I think what's happening there is the tip of the iceberg. And I got about four points to bring up to you. Number one, and I'm categorizing, but let's look at corporate. You had the Dodgers bringing in those Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to mock and tear down the Catholic Church and support groups that do that, to tear down religion, tear down the churches, and then give them awards. And then also in corporate, and I don't think you've touched on this week, but it was pointed out by Matt Walsh a few days ago that Fox News is actively supporting the LGBT plus community by forcing their employees to actually support these activities, the LGBT activities. They're making them watch and read videos and going to classes, and then they're following them to see with AI to see how much they are actually being involved in this. This is a huge story with Fox News and the Fox News executives. The second major point is that back in April, there was a woman her name was Tara Lee Rodas. She testified in front of Congress and said that a lot of the sponsors that are sponsoring migrant kids in this country, and I think it's in order to pay back the coyotes or whoever, are actually taking these kids in and doing sex trafficking and illegal work with the kids. They're making them slaves, and they can't account for like thousands and thousands of these kids, and they're given to these sponsors. They set up these sponsors, and the sponsors are using them for sex trafficking and stuff like this. And the third one is, I think your last caller just touched on it. This is an industry, the children's book industry, the entertainment industry, all making loads and loads of money off of pushing this crap. Schools are buying into it. All kinds of people are buying into it. They push it in bookstores. They push it in book sales online for kids. It's an industry. This has become a child sex LGBT industry that's going on. And then they say you're banning books if you keep them out of the school. And the fourth thing is that they're basically using the whole Trump thing as a diversion off of the real issues of how sick these Democrats really are. And if somebody like you complains about it, you're the bad guy because you're a homophobe, right? It's the Democrats are diverting all attention off to Trump and not letting these be the big issues. They'd rather have him to be the big issue than all the sick and perverted stuff that they're doing. What do you think, Jeff?
Oh, Lou, I think you're dead on. I think there's no question. And I saw that story about Fox News. Now there's internal employee memos pushing them to embrace LGBTQ agenda, the Pride Month. It's just, look, they're going the way of CNN. It's obvious. It's like, they're almost like they're the Bud Light of cable news. How do you blow up a brand and alienate your core, your customers? Now, to me, that Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, there was a big protest at Dodger Stadium last week when they honored them. Thousands of Catholics, Christians, Protestants, Jews, many people of religious faith came out, denounced it. But if you look at the videos of Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, how you could honor them? There's one where they have Jesus on a cross, but they're sexually showing, it's almost like a stripper. And then someone goes on top of Jesus and uses the cross as a pole to do stripping. And they think this is funny. And this is what you're honoring? This is what you're, look, again, people are misunderstanding what I'm saying. When I say you're free to do what you want in the privacy of your own bedroom, I don't mean I condone it. I don't. I think a lot of it is sick and unnatural and immoral and perverted. My point is you don't throw people in jail over that. That's my only point. So if you live in a free society, yeah, you can engage in all kinds of depraved behavior up to a certain point. and not go to jail over that. But what they're doing now is crossing every single line that any civilized society says you can't cross. And when you start targeting children, and as they're doing now, it's very obvious. And I look at the Dodgers, and I'm like, okay, so what are you so proud of? No, really, what? That you've mocked Christ? No, really. That you're openly rewarding anti-Christian, anti-Catholic bigotry? Like this is now what? This is good? You're proud of this? This is what you honor at the Los Angeles Dodgers? So okay, good. Go broke. Go broke. Don't go to a single game. Don't buy a single jersey. Don't buy a baseball cap, piece of merchandise, nothing. Nothing. Starve them and label them because that's what they are. Anti-Christian, anti-Catholic bigots. It's time we start shaming them. They keep throwing around homophobe, transphobe, dysphobe. It's time we shame them. That's what we're not doing. We're always playing defense. It's time now for us to go on offense. Because I'm telling you, if we don't, they're coming for the children. I mean, they're making it now crystal clear. They're coming for our kids. 617-266-6868 is the number. James in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, James, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Yeah, this is just sick. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all that the media is not covering any of this. They sweep it under the rug. We'll hear more about I feel bad for everyone that, obviously lost their lives in that submarine. That's hitting the news now, and all this is swept under the rug. We're not going to hear about that. An impeachment resolution passed for Biden yesterday. We're not going to hear about that. The media is just absolutely useless, and we know that. And our children, I like you and all of the listeners here in Kuhner country, I would fight to the death for the life and safety of my kids. And that's just the way it is. And if I could use this moment, I'd like to share a quick story. I've been fighting the school district up where I live here in New Hampshire, and, it's crazy. And anyway, they, with the prom where they labeled all the kids with markers there, a listener called your show several years ago, back when that happened, and said, anyone that wants to come up to Exeter, and we'll be in front of the town hall, and we'll tell them what we think, and we'll protest. Well, my wife had to work. I had my kids. I sat my kids down, Jeff, and I told them that this is something our founding fathers would want us to do, to peacefully protest when something is wrong. And no lie, I had my kids, and I used this opportunity to teach my kids. I had my son dressed as a police officer, and I had him with a sign that said, "I arrest HIPAA violators." And I had my daughter in a princess dress for Halloween costume that she had, that had a sign that said, "You're not going to ruin my prom." And I protested with a loudspeaker with my kids.
James, that's the only way to do it now. I mean, I hate to say this, but it's gotten to that point because I think it was Anthony in Middleton who made an excellent point. I'm a conservative. I'm going to defend your rights, parents' rights, children's rights at the school board, at the school committee, and they don't do anything because they get cowed. They get bullied. They get intimidated. They find it hard to stand up to the woke mob, to the rainbow mafia, as I like to call them. And so they get browbeaten, they get, they cower, and so they end up being silent. That's why we need parents speaking out. And what has the Biden regime done? Again, to me, this is one of the biggest scandals of the entire Biden administration. Brave, courageous, loving parents who went in front of school boards, peacefully, civilly, maybe a little angry, I don't blame them. And they said, no. You're not going to teach my child to hate someone based on their race. We're not going to do critical race theory here. No. You're not going to expose my child to pornography. What are you talking about? No, you're not going to groom my child. You're not going to sexualize my child. You're not going to ram transgenderism down my child's throat. My child's 7 years old. Leave my child alone. They were branded as domestic terrorists by Biden and the FBI. They are being spied on. They're being surveilled. They're being watched. Some of them are being harassed, persecuted. Some they even want to put in jail. So they're going after parents as quote unquote domestic terrorists for what? Speaking out at a school committee. I mean, ay. So, but that's what it's gotten down to. What are they going to do? Put us all in jail? I mean, really. So what you're seeing now, and it's going to get worse and worse, parents now are revolting. And I'm telling you, I've changed. The last 2 years, how much I've changed, how much Grace has changed. Now, I take it right to the school committee. Now, I go to the school where my kids go, and no. Listen, I want you to know. You start with this sex stuff on my children. I am going to come after you. I'm going to make life miserable for you. I'm going to expose you. You leave my child alone. Period. You want to push that sex garbage? Push it on your own children. But you leave my child and the kids in that classroom alone. Period. That's it. Don't worry. They'll know how to put a condom on. Okay? Relax. It's not rocket science. Okay? Relax. We don't need your sex education all the time. And they know if they're a boy or if they're a girl. Okay? It's none of your business. So do the reading, do the writing, do the math, give them basic skills, basic education. By the way, I don't want to get off topic. The latest results are in. The education system in the United States has now completely collapsed. In the wake of the pandemic, remember I said this about closing all those schools and virtual learning? It has now set back our children decades. Record low test scores. Reading, record low. Writing, record low. Science, record low. Math, record low. So I'll tell you what, our kids know so little of the basics. You are so failing at your job when it comes to educating the children on necessary skills, not just to get a job, but to do well in life. I don't want to hear any more about your stupid rainbow pride agenda. Okay? We're tired of it. That and climate change and all the other propaganda indoctrination. Because you can't even do the basics. You can't even do the 3 R's, reading, writing, and math and arithmetic. So, look, I'm sorry. It's time now for parents to get militant. It's time for parents now to stand up, be vocal, speak out, and push back and push back and push back. We now have to shame them. And stand your ground. And let me tell you the best way to beat them. Take their own books that they want to show to children in the classroom as part of their curriculum or in the libraries and read it back to them at the school committee. Say, here, this is what you're pushing on our kids. I have 1 minute. Okay, here's my minute. And just read and give a graphic detail of what the detail of the pictures. And I'm telling you, within 30 seconds, the school board, everybody's like, oh, okay, no, please stop. I'm going to throw up. Well, if you're going to throw up and you're a 50-year-old adult, what do you think this is going to do to the kids? Just keep doing that over and over. Right back in their face. This is what you're shoving down our kids' throats? It's book banning, Jeff. That says book banning. No, stupid. It's preventing sexually inappropriate pornographic material from being passed on and peddled to our kids. No one's banning any books, dummy. If you're an adult, buy it, read it till the cows come home. but you don't show it to 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old children. Okay? Duh. Can you liberals get that? I mean, I know. Hey, try. You can do it. You can do it. So it's up to us. We've been polite too long. We've been silent too long. We've been respectful too long. Now, these are our children. We're talking about children now. If we can't stand up and protect them, then really, what good are we? What good are we? And let me just say this. In Russia, they wouldn't accept this. I'm telling you, they wouldn't. In Eastern Europe, they wouldn't accept this. In Latin America, they wouldn't accept this. In Africa, in Asia, you think the Muslims of the Middle East would accept this? Hell, the Muslims in America don't accept this. Never mind back in the old country. You think the Arabs in the Middle East would accept this? You think the Chinese accept this? So the entire world, which is basically traditional in their morality, they would never accept this. So why are we? Why are our children guinea pigs? Why are we laboratory rats? And for what? In the name of tolerance? In the name of accepting LGBTQ pride? Who's stopping you from being a crossdresser? Who's stopping you from being gay? Who's stopping you from being a lesbian? No, really. Who's the bisexual, pansexual, non-sexual, non-binary, whatever? If you're an adult, who's stopping you, man? Really, who's stopping you? But you don't want to just be tolerated. It's like the men in that Boston public housing complex. They don't want to just wear wigs behind closed doors and diddle each other with sex toys and drugs and alcohol. No. They got to have the kids. Because in the end, it's about the kids. And when the police came, they hid the kids because they want to continue to molest and exploit the kids. We've been too tolerant too long. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us 70470. And this is a really good email. Jeff, whose children are they? This is really my question. Who do these children belong to? The ones found in that house of horrors at the Boston public housing complex. Are these kidnapped children who are being trafficked? Are these Hispanic children that came across the southern border and then disappeared? Who are they and who are the parents? That is a great question. Absolutely great question. And that's another dark underside or underbelly of Biden's open borders policy, is how many tens and tens and tens of thousands of children have become allowed into this country without their parents and then have disappeared. And now Congress estimates 85,000 children, unaccompanied minors, as they're called, have now been sex trafficked into the United States. And many of them go to Hollywood. That's why they like California is a big destination. Hollywood now has a huge underground pedophile network. A lot of them go to New York. A lot of them go to Washington, D.C. A lot of them are sent all over the country. And that is a great question. Those 4 kids, all we know, ages 5 to 10, they hid them in the back bedroom. And every single one of those adults, the transgender drag queens, where they had their big party, the drugs and the toys, the sex toys and the alcohol, and literally partying over a dead body. The corpse is there and they're still partying. None of them wanted to admit they were children until the police found them in the back. 617-266-6868 is the number. No, nothing to see here. It's Pride Month. Nothing to see here, my friends. Linda in Marshfield. Thanks for holding, Linda, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, and thank you for the good that you do. I'm a second-time caller. I'm a little bit nervous, but I want to alert you and your listeners to Senate Bill 268, the so-called Healthy Youth Act. This is not about healthy youth. This is a radical sex ed bill. And if it's passed, it would impose gender ideology on all sex ed public schools in the Commonwealth. I can forward a copy of the bill to you. I'm a little bit nervous.
No, Linda, there's no need for you to be nervous. You're hitting the nail right on the head. I'm fully aware of the bill. It's now making its way, you're right, through the state Senate. This is what Maura Healey also wants to impose, and they want to do this on every school in the Commonwealth. So they want to push critical race theory. It'll be mandatory in every school. And they want to push, as you point out, gender ideology. In other words, transgenderism in every single school, public school in the Commonwealth. It will be mandatory. Whether you want it, don't want it, they don't care. Now, you tell me, how is this not child abuse? We're going to start telling kindergartners, first graders, second graders, they're not a boy, or they're not a girl, or they could be non-binary, or they could be a they, or an it, or an X. I'm not kidding. Now there are children identifying as a cat. As a cat. This was a huge story in England. It's happening here, but in Britain it made huge headlines. And the children didn't want to recognize another child who's walking around going meow, meow, meow with a litter box in the classroom. And the children are like, this is ridiculous. And the teacher was yelling and screaming at all the other kids, saying if that child identifies as a cat, as a kitten, you have to then treat that person like a little kitten. And she was berating, yelling, screaming, threatening the kids. And the parents are like, have we all, this is insane. This is insane. I'm looking at a child, a human being, not an animal, not a kitten. Like I'm telling you, this is what they're going to foist on our children. They're already doing it, and now they're going to impose it via government fiat, as what you're talking about. Now, I'm sorry, where I come from, that's child abuse. I mean, it's clear-cut child abuse. But more than that, this is, as the world is passing us by, in education, in math, in reading, in science, and I mean, we're so falling behind, it's not even funny. And this is what we're obsessed with? It's pure indoctrination, pure brainwashing, and there's no question, it's pure child abuse. I mean, Linda, am I wrong?
No, I think it's correct. There's one other thing. Parents, and I don't know if you're aware of school-based health centers. School-based health centers, there's about 42 of them. They're mostly in urban school systems. But if parents sign their kids, to be treated in a school-based health center, if their daughter comes up with a positive pregnancy test, which these centers can do pregnancy tests, they can do counseling and provide what they call options counseling. That would be parenting, abortion, or whatever. When parents signed up for these school-based health centers, they don't realize they're signing away their rights as a parent on certain issues.
It is so bad. You're completely right. It is so bad. In California now, the Dems are pushing a bill. Listen to this. They can take your child away from you at the age of 12 if your child wants to have a sex change operation and you say no. 617-266-6868 is the number. Rob in Yellowstone. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Rob.
Question for you. Why now? Why is this happening now and not, say, back only as far as the Clinton administration? Or back when I was a kid, when I was in grade school in the 60s and 70s, and graduated in 78. What's missing or what's happening that this is issued now. Why not back then? And I think there was fear. There was fear for the rainbow community to expose themselves, to come out. Gay people were afraid to come out, scared to death. Unfortunately, fortunately that changed. But for a big, fat, smelly drag queen to put on a show in front of 5-year-olds, if somebody had even suggested that back during the Clinton administration, they would have had their legs broken if they weren't arrested. Now, we fight this. We try to fight this in the school boards and in the public forum and in legislature. And all you do is you get erased. You get harassed by the FBI. You end up destroyed in the courts, financially destroyed defending yourself if you speak out at a school board meeting. There's no fear. What happened to the men of this nation that would take matters into their own hands? If they're not going to play by the rules, if they're not going to play by the laws, which make this stuff illegal, they haven't even bothered to change the laws yet. It's illegal to do what these drag queens do. Flat out illegal. These books that they're putting in front of children, read the child sex abuse laws. It's illegal what they're doing. They're not following the laws. They're not following any rules. It's time for the citizens and the men, especially, of this nation, or at least in Massachusetts now, to stand up and put some fear into these people by any means.
Rob, listen, I got to tell you, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. I don't know what people are waiting for. I've been saying this now for I don't know how long. Now, I'm not saying you pick up your pitchfork and, start tarring and feathering people, but it's not that hard. Show up at these school board meetings, push back. You're right. Those books are illegal. That's considered child pornography. Those are illegal. They should not be in the schools. They shouldn't be in the libraries. They shouldn't be in the classroom. It's very simple. Just shame them. And on this issue, the LGBTQIA plus, it just keeps growing. The alphabet mafia, the rainbow mafia, they're in such a small minority. The overwhelming majority of Americans hate this garbage. And so what are we afraid of? You're right. The FBI is targeting us. You are going to be canceled. People on the internet, people on social media. But so what? Those parents stood up in Virginia. Let the FBI target them. There's too many of them. There's too many of us. Look, they just can't build that many prisons. They just can't. So, and what are they going to do? Throw us in jail? No, really. Why? Because I oppose child porn in school? You want to throw me in jail for that? Good luck. No, really, good luck. So, I honestly, look, Rob, until this affects, I hate to say this, until it affects their children, until their children are molested, or until their children are exposed to this pornographic garbage and filth, and they see the damage it does to their child, then they're going to react. But by then, it's too late. Your child's going to be, that will change your child for the rest of their life. And that's where we are. Now, I believe there is a slow revolt. It's coming. You can see it now. More people are speaking up. More parents are showing up at school boards. The kids themselves, this is to me what breaks my heart. You saw it in that middle school in Burlington. They're like, nah, we're tearing down the banners. Nah, we don't want this anymore. No, we don't want your Pride Month. No, we don't want your Dumb Spirit Day. We're tired of this. In California, in the schools, the kids are like, the kids are saying this to the adults, the teachers. This is not appropriate for children. We don't want to hear this. So the kids have to defend the kids because the parents are abdicating their fundamental parental responsibilities. But so even the kids now are revolting. So in the end, this is so against God and so against human nature and so against basic public decency that a revolt is inevitable. It's inevitable. The only question is, what form does it take? And when do we finally decide no more? That's the only question now, Rob. But a revolt is coming. There's no question. This cannot stand. Rob, thank you very much for that call. I mean, it's just, it's obscene. It's just obscene. So now, again, I just want to quickly reset. It's the biggest story in Boston, and it's being deliberately underreported by the media. In some cases, it's being utterly ignored. There was a house of horrors recently discovered at a housing complex in South Boston, the Mary Ellen McCormick Housing Complex on Old Colony Avenue. The police got a call at 11, I think, 11:15 a.m. On Saturday, just this past Saturday. And there was a person who had died from an overdose, cardiac arrest due to an overdose. Apparently that person had been dead for a while. There were 6 adult men, transgender drag queens. They had an orgy. It was a party. They were all dressed in wigs, makeup, lingerie, stockings, high heels, whatever it is. There were drugs everywhere. Filth. It was dirty, filthy everywhere. Alcohol everywhere. Sex toys, especially aimed at children, everywhere in the apartment. They were partying with the dead body in the room. When they came in, the men denied that there were any children. The police and fire department first responders didn't believe them. They knew something was up involving kids. This was not an all-adult drag queen party. And in the back bedroom, they found four children terrorized, ages 5 to 10 years old. They were being hidden from the police by one adult biological male with a wig, the whole drag queen outfit, and apparently claiming they were all his kids. They didn't believe him. These children now have been taken into the custody of DCF, and we shall see what happens from this point forward. But what is clear is that those children were sexually molested, sexually abused, sexually violated repeatedly. So, you want to know why the drag queens want to be in your library or your child's library or in your school? And I don't get these mothers who take them to these venues and have these drag queens go on and, gyrate and twerk and work the pole and it's called sexual entertainment in front of their 2, 3, 4-year-olds. They want to diddle your kids. And you're trying to desensitize your kids so they can figure they'll assume it's normal to be preyed upon by sexual predators. These women mothers, these liberal mothers, these liberal women that bring their young kids to these drag queen shows, I don't get these people. I really don't. I really, really don't. But anyway, 617-266-6868 is the number. Bruce in Woburn.
Because you are so busy. But anyways, here I was all week trying to get on about the submarine thing and feeling how bad I was feeling about those 5 people. Well, this blows the doors off of that submarine, no pun intended. This is just unacceptable. I mean, but we saw it coming. I mean, they got these weirdos dancing at the White House. They got them dancing at the Capitol. They got the Capitol light lit up like the LGBT, whatever the heck they are called, 3.14 flag. we got everywhere you look, there's one of these flags. And I'm seeing a lot more American flags, Jeff. A lot more American flags. And you got Michelle Wu.
Well, you're right. Look, you got Michelle Wu, who's trying to downplay what happened in that House of Horrors, and she's flying the pride flag all month. And let's be honest, they want that transgender pride flag to replace the American flag. Debbie in Norwood. Thanks for holding, Debbie, and welcome.
Hi, I am just outraged at the fact that these are children. I'm just going to address the children, not the disgusting things that happen. These are babies. If they had been puppies or dogs or cats, there would have been an outroar. There would be a GoFundMe. There would be people screaming, picketing, finding out who they belong to, who dropped them off, where they came from. And these are our babies. These are children. They're innocent, and I am completely heartbroken that this is going on, and nobody cares except you and those that do care, but it's not care enough to show the outrage of what's going on. These are babies.
Debbie, I'm just curious what you think of this, because you're completely right. I mean, they're babies. They're children. They're young children. I mean, some of them are as young as 5 years old. I mean, it's unconscionable. It's unspeakable. Joe Biden made a big deal, huge video out of the White House. And he said the position now of his administration, of his regime, and of the entire Democratic Party is that they're not your children, Debbie. They're not my children. They're all our children. That they belong to the state and they belong to the government. But I think he also meant something else, and I want to get your take on this. When he says they're all our children, what he really is now trying to say is, yes, we can perform experiments on them. We can sexually mutilate them, surgically mutilate them, do, unalterable, have an unalterable, an impact that will that will change them, that will alter them for the rest of their lives. And we can't say or do anything about it. That the parents do not have a say. That ultimately, if they want to sexualize our children, groom our children, pervert our children, abuse our children, and in the end, they clearly now are including drag queens. Drag queens now are a big part of when they say the LGBTQ agenda. So are they not really now starting to say, if pedophiles want to have their way with them, as long as the child, quote unquote, consents, then let them have at it. In other words, if we can give them porn, if we can expose them to drag queen story hour, if we can have them work a pole and act like a stripper, if we can groom them and have them talk about sex and their their gender identity at the age of 5 or 6 years old, and even surgically mutilate them. If those 4 kids in that Boston housing complex, if they wanted to please daddy or please daddy's friends, if that's what they wanted to do, aren't liberals in the Biden regime saying, yeah, what the hell? They're all our children, aren't they? In other words, they're their children. They belong to the drag queens and to the radical transgender left. Am I wrong?
I think what they're trying to do is they've completely annihilated people's fight to try to defend children because they are so against. You are called a homophobe, you're called this, you're called that. And they are making people so intimidated to say anything and they're making our children so stupid. The results are over half a century, 50 years we've gone back in the educational level of our children. So what's next is they're going to have some kind of transplant or something that you can be a transhumanism to make you smarter. Your kid can be smarter. So it's not only changing their sex, it's going to change their intellect. And pretty soon, we're not going to have anything but just serfs to the government, because parents are losing their right, children are losing their identity, and people are forgetting what it's like to be human. It's the extinction of being human. And we've lost it. And from other nations, when they look at us, some nations say we're the great Satan. And in a lot of ways we are. We are anti-everything. We are almost, for those that believe in Christ, which I do, we're anti-Christ. We're creating things that are not natural, and it's scary. And my heart breaks for the children, those that are natural citizens of the United States and those that are being transported illegally and thrown into channels of trafficking, which we all know is going on. Who were these children, these 4 little children? Why isn't there an outrage over it? And the thing is, if they were dogs or cats, there'd be people screaming, wanting to know who dumped them off, why were they there? And I don't know, Jeff, it's crazy.
It is. We are living in insane times. There's no question about it now. And the only question that we have to answer is, do we want to continue to let the inmates run the asylum? Or will the responsible adults, the normal, sane people, finally say, nah, it's over. Nah, we're taking over now. You're going back into your cells. You're going back into your padded cells, into your straitjackets, and we're not going to allow this anymore. Because you're right. In the past, they were shunned. They were marginalized. They were ostracized. Now, everybody's putting on a wig. Everybody's wearing lipstick. Everybody's a drag queen. And they are going for the kids now right in front of our face. Thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it, Debbie. Good call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Kevin in Newton. Thanks for holding, Kevin, and welcome.
Jeff, thank you very much for having me and the voice of normalcy in the morning. My head is exploding today because I've been through a situation. I own real estate, and those people over there at that housing project, they would have known that lived in those apartments. I own real estate, and I had to remove some of these drag queens out of my property. And when I say drag queens, I gave the last opportunity for them to stop their behavior, not the dancing around and dressing up like drag queens, but by the same, they were using vile language, fighting, screaming, and they were playing music loud on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. And finally, I had lost it with them, and I said, I'm going to take you, and I'm going to evict you. Well, what they did, they took me to discrimination court. And I'll tell you, Jeff, in doing so, I had to get discovery, I had to get a lawyer, I had to get all these things. And remember, that housing project, those people there, one of the worst offenders of your rights is in these housing projects. And people in apartments lived beside those people. They knew about this. The cops knew about this. It blew up because it was a dead person. I got them out, and I went to discrimination court. And it cost me money, it cost me time, it cost my work. Tommy Lasorda would be rolling over his grave that they talked about, these Christian so-called nuns. And they wouldn't do it to the Muslims, and they would not do it to the Jewish people. My issue is we better wake up because of the gentleman earlier on in your conversation that said, where are the men? The men are still here. It's just that when I was hauled into court, I had to pay a lot of money. I had to deal with these idiots. And they can do it to you, 6-unit building, and they came in defense of me. There are a lot of people that think just like you and I, but we've been denuded over the years, like that woman just said. What has happened in the last 50 years, this stuff would never go on in your father's time. But now they're out in the open, and you better keep your mouth shut. And I run a business in Auburndale, and I'll tell you, you've got to be careful what you say politically, sexuality, and you would be surprised how they can just clamp down, and you will be out on the street.
Very well said, Kevin. Really, honestly, very, very well said. And look, a lot. These a lot of these transgendered, these drag queens, they're mentally ill. I mean, let's just call it the way it is. You know, I've dealt with them. I've spoken to them. I've dealt with them. And I'm like, you can tell the elevator doesn't go to the top. And, you know, if they were just cross-dressing for themselves, again, for adults, that's your business. I mean, you know, I have my personal views on that. But look, you know, you pay your rent on time. You don't bother your neighbors. I don't care. You want to dress, don't dress, cross-dress. You want to be nude in your apartment. I don't care. It's your business. But it's clear now. They don't want to hang out with fellow adults. They want to go after the kids. They're going after the kids. They want to expose themselves, dance for the kids. And it's going so mainstream. Michael Strahan, who, whatever, he's one of these guys on one of these morning shows, a former NFL player. He interviewed a young kid. And I think this kid was like maybe 6 years old, who was being coached by a drag queen how to work a pole like a stripper and dance for money. And so the drag queen is grooming and sexualizing this 5-6-year-old kid. And Michael Strahan, after he sees the kid do a lewd, sexually very provocative dance, and then asking for money, like as a stripper would ask for money. And he's going, yeah, great job. Yeah. Yeah. This is like on the morning shows. You know, like for the housewives. Yeah. Great job. Yeah. A 5-6-year-old stripper? A kid? Being groomed and mentored by a drag queen? And now on the morning TV shows, like, yeah, good job. Good job. Now, and I guess the housewives don't mind. I guess the parents who watch these morning shows, they don't mind. They like it. 617-266-6868. Okay, 8 o'clock, you know what that means. Caller of the week, Kuhner's Call Log.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, sponsored by MyPillow.com, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Will.
I am an ex-submariner, and respectfully, there's a 99% chance these people have been dead for several days. If the reports are accurate, they lost comms about 3/4 of the way to the bottom. That's between 9,000 and 10,000 feet. At that depth, you've essentially got the pressure of a mid-sized car every square inch of the hull. Now, this thing was built with shoddy components. If you go back and look at the people who created the observation window, they wouldn't warranty it below 1,500 meters because it hadn't been tested. Titanium does not respond well to compression and release over and over again, and this thing had made dozens of dives. The carbon fiber had a history of cracking, and the sea only really allows you one mistake. It hadn't been warranted below 1,500 meters. The people that built it said, we're not going to buy off on it going down to 4K. We'll buy off on it going down to 15K. Best of luck, everybody. And he took it. I think the sea underwater is very unforgiving, and this guy traded on its kindness, and it wasn't kind.
He's insane.
Not anymore.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log, sponsored by MyPillow.com.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Best audience in the business. I know I keep saying it, but it's true. That caller hit the nail right on the head. The Coast Guard yesterday confirmed essentially what that caller had said, but hours before that the Titan, that tourist sub that was looking for the wreckage of the Titanic with everybody on board, imploded, most likely within hours of when they first descended into the water. They found the debris, and it looks like everybody on board sadly died. And our caller called it, and he was completely right. Okay, my friends, you've heard me say it many, many times, but I want to say it again. I love My Pillow 2.0. It is the best, most luxurious, comfortable pillow you will ever, ever sleep on. Sleep as well as I do. Get a MyPillow 2.0, and if you buy one now, you get the other one absolutely free. It also comes with a full 60-day money-back guarantee. So if by some miracle you don't love it, I'm telling you, you will. But if by some miracle you don't, you get your money back. Call 1-800-972-2316, 1-800-972-2316, or go to mypillow.com, and don't forget to use the code WRKO. Roman in Boston. Thanks for holding, Roman, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Roman?
I'm okay. I you know what? It's when they had the trans party or the pride party at the White House, and what they were doing, gyrating and all that, was inappropriate. They came out and said it's inappropriate for the White House, but it's appropriate for Drag Queen Story Hour to flaunt their stuff in front of a 7-year-old. Does that make sense to you? No. It doesn't to me. It's the ultimate double standard. Jesus said it is better to tie a millstone around your neck and jump in the sea than to harm the least of these. The least of these are the children. These kids were definitely trafficked. Definitely, they're part of the 87,000 that went missing. And but that nobody wants to talk about this. This has been in media blackout because it's two-tiered. You're going against transgender and the border. At that, how porous the border is, and all these kids are just getting through unchecked. I do want to say good job to the cops because they kept their eyes open, and when they got in there. And they saw what was going on, and they investigated a little further while on scene. Where are the members of the community, their community, the LGBTQ community? No one is speaking out against all these atrocities. In South Boston, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, no one from their community is speaking out at all. Why? They need to keep this covered up. We're in media blackout here. They never mentioned anything about this. Little blips and stories about this, and it's a week old.
No, Roman, look, you're dead on. To me, where's the local media? This is the biggest story in Boston, frankly, in Massachusetts right now, full stop. Where's the local media? Nowhere. Where's the Boston Globe? Nowhere. To their credit, the Herald broke and drove this story. So the Herald has done their job, no question. But the Globe and the local media, pathetic. Pathetic. They should be ashamed of themselves. But it's not just the local media. Where's the governor? Where's Maura Healey? She's a proud member of the LGBTQ plus community. She's a lesbian, first lesbian governor. But where's she on this? Nothing. Michelle Wu, I'm concerned. You're concerned? That's the best you can do? You're concerned? So 4 kids were being raped and violated during an all-night drag queen orgy with drugs, alcohol, and sex toys with a dead body in the room? And it's like something out of Dante's Inferno. And I'm concerned. Well, DCF now has snatched up the kids. Well, okay, that's it. Well, problem solved. But so, okay, it's all good now. So, no, they're covering up. This is the great sickness. This is the great disease. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows there's a pedophile ring in Hollywood. They're notorious for it. Everybody knows it's notorious in Washington, D.C. Everybody knows in Manhattan, in New York, in Wall Street. Everybody knows what's going on now all across the country. Let's not kid each other. Epstein's Island. These were 11, 12, 13-year-old kids that were being molested and sexually violated by some of the most powerful people on earth. And Epstein was blackmailing every single one of them. That's how he made his money. To this day, nobody can explain Epstein's wealth. He was blackmailing people, extorting people, rich, powerful people. That's how he made his money. That's how he made his fortune. So we know what's going on, and we know what these drag queens are after. Believe me, we know now. It's all out in the open. And on the transgender front, now they're coming after our kids. And they've stated it openly. Your daughter will become a boy. Your son will become a girl. If not, we'll make them both, or we'll make them non-binary, or we will so screw up your children that by the time we're done, we're going to lop off their breasts, mutilate their genitals, give them puberty blockers, chemical castration. It's unalterable after that point. And so there's a huge documentary now. You've got transgender after transgender. They're trying to detransition. These are people in their early 20s saying, please don't make the mistake that I made. I was 12, 13, 14. I was in puberty, hormones. I was confused. And the adults seized on that confusion and convinced me to lop off my genitals and have a sex change operation or take these hormones or puberty blockers, and they've destroyed my body. I can't reproduce anymore. I can't have children. I can't enjoy sex. I have health issues now that are debilitating for the rest of my life. The biggest regret I ever made, don't do it. They're too young. They're too immature. They're not developed enough. These are children that don't know whether they should take an aspirin without the parents' consent. And yet you want to force surgical genital mutilation on them? And that documentary now, banned. Banned. Because the LGBTQ community said, no, oh my God, this is transphobic. It's transphobic. So former transgendered people who are saying, don't have a sex change operation. Sorry, gender affirming care. Don't have a sex change operation. It'll destroy you. They're now transphobic. You see how absurd this is getting? They're after our children. And it's time, it's time to kick them out of our schools. Every single one of them. Hands off our kids. Parents, it's time to stand up and say enough. Okay, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Do you believe the media is deliberately downplaying the drag queen angle or the drag queen aspect of this horrific story of the 4 children that now were found in this house of horrors at this apartment complex in Boston, following with a dead body, following at least one night of nonstop partying, drugs, alcohol, and sex toys by 6 transgendered drag queens. Are they trying to downplay deliberately the drag queen aspect of this story? Yes or no? To me, I think it's quite obvious. They don't want any connection to drag queens because they're trying to ram it down our throats and the throats of our children. So they don't want anyone to know about this story. But I want to hear from you. If I'm wrong, please let me know. I'd love to hear what the audience has to say. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. If you prefer, you can vote via our handle at the Twitter, on Twitter, at the Kuhner Report, KUH, N as in Nancy, ER, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I have about 18 things that I've written down on a piece of scratch paper. I hope I have enough time to get all of this out. I need to vomit this. First and foremost, I would like to ask Kuhner Country to get on their knees today, especially those of us that profess publicly that we are Christians and believe in God, to pray for these innocent, precious little children that have been corrupted and contaminated, that God's touch, his supernatural touch, will heal them, because this is horrific. This is absolute. It's like a woman said previously in the almost 8 o'clock. It's just it's beyond heartbreaking. This is at a level of depravity that is now becoming somehow accepted. So I'm asking Kuhner Country to today take a moment, get on your knees, and pray that God will touch these children, because they're going to need all the help that they can get. The fact that they're now in DCF, that's another concern for me. That's an issue for another day. But here are a couple of things that I like to bring up. And these are uncomfortable things too, Jeff. While the other side has been building what I say the kingdom of darkness, we all have to ask ourselves, what the hell have we all been doing? Okay? Especially those of us, again, that profess to be Christians. God has told us to go out and make disciples of all men. I understand that can be uncomfortable for people, but look what the hell we have got going on here. They have been brilliantly, and I hate to say this, it's like a diabolical brilliance, framing the messaging for years, okay? And in the public relations industry, he who frames first usually wins. They did that with abortion. Now, that's been overturned, but nonetheless, the damage has been done. There's a lot of damage from allowing that to have occurred, using the word choice. Their voices and their messaging has been louder, and I'm going to use the word prouder. And so here we find ourselves again. They've been building the kingdom of darkness, okay? They're not, God says, if you're a friend of the world, you're an enemy of God. And again, I ask the audience, what the hell have we all, self-included, have we been doing? I understand. We're busy. We're trying to live the American dream. We're buying homes, cars, vacations, trying to raise a family, blah, 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 blah. But this is where we find ourselves. And on that last day of judgment, we are going to be asked what we've done for him. All right? God doesn't give two rips about your new home, your new car, this, that, and the other thing. The world is inverted and perverted right now. This is an absolute nightmare that we're living in. Now, for you, Jeff, this is very difficult for me because I agree with you 99.9% of the time. I call myself, when I talk about you to other people and I'm promoting RKO, you're my brother from another mother. I love you in a non-sexual way. But I have to take umbrage with the statement that you said, and you have every right to say it. And a lot of people do say this, and I've found myself saying it over the years, but I've stopped. When we say out loud, you don't care what adults do in the privacy of their own home, well, you know what? I do care, because what people do in the privacy of their own home, it eventually bleeds out. And it is bleeding out. I used to get into big ruckus arguments with my dad, who was a yellow dog. I've said it many times on this show. And we would get into this whole thing during the Clinton years. And, what he does in private has nothing to do with what's going on. I'm like, it has everything to do. That's a bunch of BS. I used to call it out. That's a bunch of BS. So what people do, we understand we're free people. But again, going back to God, Paul said, everything is permissible. Okay, we have free will, but not everything is beneficial. And then he repeats it and says, everything is permissible, but not everything is constructive. And so now we find ourselves living in times where we are actually in the times that in the Old Testament where it says, people will call good evil and evil good. And hell, I can't believe that I'm living during this time. It's right there in front of our eyes. So I do take umbrage on that because there's a concern. It does bleed out. What you do, it can't help but bleed out. That's your person. You can't
I hear
sort of
you.
hold that.
I hear you. No, and in a way you're right. There's no question. It's your character, who you are, and you take your character with you wherever you go. What I mean when I say that, I don't mean that I'm being non-judgmental, or that I accept it in the sense that I approve of it. Here, I'll just give you an example. If someone cheats on their wife, or if someone cheats on their husband, I don't approve. You want to do it, but it's wrong. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, now, we're seeing this attack not just on our children, obviously, but we're also seeing it on women, young women in particular, teenagers, young adults. I want you to listen now. Here is swimmer Riley Gaines. Again, remember I'm saying it's the children that are defending themselves because for whatever reason parents are afraid to or they're reluctant to. Well, here's Riley Gaines, who was a swimming teammate of Leah Thomas, goes by Leah, the biological male, who at the University of Pennsylvania competed in female swimming, shattered record after record, and he was allowed into the female locker room. He would expose himself. He walked around completely nude, completely naked. He showered in front of them. He undressed in front of them. He watched them as the girls undressed. Forgive me. He got sexually aroused in front of them. Even though he claims to be a woman, believe me, when it comes to attraction to other women, he's all man. He's a biological male through and through. Okay? Listen now to her. On the verge, tears, saying, we were told by the University of Pennsylvania he could take his clothes off right in front of us, expose himself, and we had no right to privacy, no right to modesty. We had to bear it and endure it no matter what. In the name of quote-unquote tolerance. Roll cut 8. Mike.
I'll set the scene. A swimming locker room is not a place of modesty. You're undressing, you're fully exposed, and we were forced to take off our swimsuit in front of a man who was doing the exact same thing. If nothing else, I truly hope how you can see this as a violation of our right to privacy and how some of us have felt uncomfortable, embarrassed, and even traumatized by this experience.
You think? You think? Here, let me ask all the women out there. And again, if I'm making you uncomfortable, I don't mean to, but this is what many girls, young adults, I'm saying this affectionately about calling Riley Gaines a girl, young women like her, young adults like her, this is what they're dealing with now all across the country. Would you like to see a stranger, a male stranger, say at your YMCA or your gym club or whatever, come into a woman's locker room and just literally take his clothes off and expose his you-know-what right in front of you? Would you like that? He's walking around naked right in front of you. You're showering. There he is right in front of you. God forgive me. Forgive me for saying this. He's aroused right in front of you. How would you feel? Wouldn't you feel violated? Wouldn't you feel utterly disgusted? Wouldn't you feel like, why am I seeing this? Why? Because sex is something that is fundamentally private. It's fundamentally intimate. And now, your very freedom, your very privacy, your very dignity is being violated? Now, if I did this in public, or if I just, walk down the hallway at WRKO, or, hey, if I just go into a woman's locker room, I'm not trying to be gross, and I just, hey, baby, and I expose myself. That's sexual harassment. I'm fired. I'm gone. And most likely and rightly charges are going to be pressed against me. There's obscenity laws. There's, you name it, sexual assault. Now, but if I walk in and say, I identify as a woman, hey, baby, then it's okay? Do you see the utter absurdity of this? So, as she's testifying, there is someone from the Human Rights Campaign, a disgusting, you want to talk about a far left pro-LGBTQ group? This is it. So, they want men in women's locker rooms, in women's showers, competing in female sports, in women's bathrooms. They want them everywhere. Everywhere. So they're trying to make the argument that men and women are the same. They're the same. Like, what's your problem? Like, you should be as comfortable with a naked biological man as you are with a woman in a female locker room. What's the problem? And not only that, but that biological men should be allowed to compete in women's sports because women, listen to this, women are just as good, just as strong. They got the same muscle mass, the same bone density. They're just as fit, as strong, as athletic as the men. So, in other words, we should even have sex-segregated sports. Just bring it on, baby, because women are just as strong and athletic as men. Listen now to this. I kid you not. So, the president of the Human Rights Campaign, Kelly Robinson, she's asked by Senator John Kennedy, Republican Louisiana, at a Senate hearing on so-called transgender rights, saying, well, I mean, how many genders are there? Like, isn't it just a male and a female? Isn't that like a man and a woman? Aren't there just obviously two basic genders? Hello? Listen to this response. Roll cut 9. Mike.
How many genders are there?
I think the gender is expansive, and the definitions are always growing. Today I can tell you, I talk to young people that talk about non-binary as
more than 5.
I think the gender is not a binary, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there more than 5 genders? I'm just trying to understand. Are there more than 5 genders?
Well, I mean, I think that there was a time where women wearing pants didn't feel like it was appropriate for their gender, and yet I'm wearing pants today. I think that there are ways that we express our gender that are expansive.
Are there more than 5?
I wouldn't subject myself to naming how many genders there are, but what I can say is that gender is a reflection. Excuse me?
There's an infinite number of genders?
I think depending on your culture, there are a lot of different genders that exist. And I can also say that it's a term that's evolving.
So the term itself is evolving. So we don't really know what we mean when we say gender anymore. Biological sex. That's what really we're talking about. Your basic biology. Nah, that's evolving. So that's not real anymore. So the XX chromosome and the XY chromosome that distinguishes men and women, that doesn't exist anymore. See, that's gone. So biological reality, well, that's gone. So, okay, you can't define it. So, I mean, how many genders are there? We don't know. But it's constantly evolving and it's constantly changing. Okay, is it 5? Nah, I don't know. 10? I don't know. 100? I don't know. 1,000? I don't know. You see? You see how crazy? This is social madness and incoherence. But hold on. Hold on. She's just getting warmed up. So, listen to this. Kennedy then says, so you don't think biological males have an advantage over biological females in sports, especially at the highest level at professional sports. Listen to this. Roll cut 9A. Mike.
You don't believe that a biological male has a physical advantage in sports over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female.
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
I mean, Riley Gaines destroyed her. I mean, it was a thorough, no one can beat the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus Williams. He's like, well, actually, no, that's not true. They played a match against a man ranked 200 over 200th in the world, and he destroyed him. So, by the way, 200 in the world in tennis, I don't even think you get into the first round. I'm serious. Say of the U.S. Open or Wimbledon or the French Open. You don't even qualify for the first round. So, I mean, you're in the top 100. You can get into the tournament. So you can't even play in the big tournaments at 200. And they beat the best two women maybe ever play tennis. And her own husband, who was unranked when he was a swimmer, and she's one of the best female swimmers, as she put it, can kick my butt any day of the week without even trying. So yes, there is a difference. 617-266-6868. Oh, I mean, I love Kennedy. I love Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. That kind of folksy Southern common sense that he has. So after he picks apart Kelly Robinson, the president of the Human Rights Campaign, and having Riley Gaines do it by saying, what do you mean the Serena Williams can beat any man on the planet? They couldn't even beat the 203rd ranked player in professional tennis. And Riley Gaines is like, my own husband, who's a swimmer and was unranked at the University of Kentucky, could beat me any day of the week. So after that argument gets completely dismantled, he then looks at the head of the Human Rights Campaign and says, if you're not even going to admit that biological men clearly have a physical, athletic advantage over women, then that makes me doubt everything you're saying. Roll cut 9B, Mike.
I think you lose a lot of credibility when you don't concede that a biological male has physical advantages over a biological female. I mean, I just think that's a proven fact, and you really hurt your credibility. I understand you want the world to be a better place. I do too, and I don't think people ought to be discriminated against because of an immutable characteristic. I don't. I think everybody ought to be free to be themselves. And I think biological females have rights to be able to compete fairly in sports. So I really think you hurt your credibility when you refuse to acknowledge that biological males have an advantage over biological females. It kind of makes me wonder about all your testimony.
You think? I mean, you think? So, I mean, this is such naked discrimination against women. Like, that's what I find incredible. And and there are a few feminists like J.K. Rowling or Martina Navratilova who have the guts to stand up to the woke mob and the rainbow mafia that say, no, men are clearly stronger. They shouldn't be allowed in women's locker rooms. They shouldn't be allowed to expose themselves. And they certainly shouldn't be allowed to compete against females, in sports. I mean, it's so blatantly unfair. You're erasing women. That's what you're doing. You're erasing women. Listen now to Senator John Kennedy. This was on Fox News, saying, we're in now uncharted territory. You. Roll cut 9C. Mike.
My Democratic colleagues called a hearing today. They invited 3 of their witnesses to convince the American people that it's okay for males to compete against females in sports. I have to say, there was a sort of a Alice in Wonderland weirdness about the whole hearing. For example, one of my Democratic colleagues' witnesses testified that there are 3 biological sexes and an infinite number of genders. I've heard better answers on the dating game.
I swear, where he comes up with these one-liners. 617-266-6868. Now, just so that everybody knows, in Natick, my bad, forgive me. In Natick, now a decision has been made. Forget Pride Month. Listen to this. It's now Pride Year. Pride Year. In Natick, they are now saying they're going to fly the LGBTQ pride flag all year long, at every public school in Natick. We have a big national audience. So Natick is a town, a suburb of Boston. What would you say, Sandy? Fairly affluent? I would say middle class, upper middle class, even a little bit. So, affluent suburb of Boston. And now they're going to go woke and they're going to go LGBTQ. Forget the month of June. It's now the whole year. 617-266-6868. Steve in Florida. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
Well, I'm very well now that I moved out of the state of Massachusetts. I just can't say enough about the people up there. Get out of that state. Move to a conservative state. The mere fact that Maura Healey or Michelle Wu will not publicly condemn this house of horrors and what has happened in the city of Boston, they should be out there on the steps of City Hall saying what an atrocity this is. And the mere fact that they won't do that, anybody that votes for Maura Healey or Michelle Wu might as well put a sign in their front yard that says, I support child molestation. This is disgusting what's going on. No coverage. I can't say enough. Get out while you can.
Steve, why do you think, I mean, you've obviously been in Massachusetts a long time. I know you live in Florida now. Why do the parents put up with it? I mean, there's a lot of working middle-class people in Massachusetts, hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying. They want what's best for their kids. Why are they deliberately turning a blind eye to what is now clearly pedophilia and child molestation? Why?
That is donated to the teachers' unions, to all unions, for them to support. Vote Democrat, vote Democrat. I was a member of Local 25 for 20 years. I flipped my life upside down, left my job. My wife, fortunately, was able to work remotely. If they support this, they might as well put a sign in their yard, I support child molestation. It's anybody that votes Democratic up there. I know you say, vote like a yellow dog. Well, it's time to vote like a red dog. Right down the line, Republicans. And I know not all Republicans are great, but they're a step up from some of these deplorable Democrats.
Steve, very well said. Very well said. Thank you very much for that call. No, at this point, really, the Democrat regime, I mean, really all over the country, but especially in Mass, California, there's some, the blue states. Now, I mean, they're pro-pedophile. There's just no other way to put it. They're pro-pedophile, pro-child molester. And ultimately, that's what drag queen is. The drag queen story hour and pushing drag queens on kids, that's what it's all about. And not only that, if you look at the LGBTQ plus, they're now inserting something called MAP. In parentheses, it's now it's LGBTQ. There's a plus, then an I. I mean, it's like, there's like 25 letters. But then there's in parentheses, MAP, minor attracted persons. That's a nice way of saying pedophile. Adults who are attracted to kids. So it's there. It's now even in the name. 617-266-6868. Gino in Buffalo. Thanks for holding, Gino, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very good, thank you. I just wanted to call because, I keep listening to this, and I was born, baptized, raised, confirmed Catholic, and I just really wonder, where are the churches in all this? Not even the Catholic, well, the Catholic Church especially, because that's my church, but why I distance myself between how they deal with the Catholic charities on the border and how they're dealing with this. But not even Presbyterian. I couldn't tell you Lutheran church. I can't tell you one church that's standing up and saying what a disgusting turn our country has taken. What a demonic turn.
Gino, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Like, I'm a fellow Catholic, like I'm in the confessional. The only religious group that is strongly, vocally standing up to any of this in our country are the Muslims. Apparently in Maryland, the Muslims had a big protest, a couple of weeks ago? They just had another one. And I don't mean like the protest in front of Dodger Stadium, which was nice. I mean, there were a couple thousand people who showed up, Catholics, Protestants. There was a Jewish rabbi who spoke very eloquently. But, I'm thinking this is L.A. I mean, they should have had 20, 30, 40, 50,000 easy. They barely mustered 2,000 people. It was nice that they showed up. But I'm thinking, this is Los Angeles. How many Hispanic Catholics alone in the greater Los Angeles area? There should have been an army. And they showed up, they prayed, and they made their point. But if you look at the Muslims, I'm just going to call it the way I see it, with their signs, you will not touch our children. Parents' rights comes first. Families come first. This is their religious freedom. You will not violate our religious rights. They are like proverbially, politically punching the LGBTQ community right in the mouth. I mean, they're telling them, don't you dare. Don't you even think about it. Don't you. And I mean, they're yelling. They're screaming. They're standing up to them. And it's working. The local school boards in Maryland, the local school boards in Michigan, they're not, we're not going to, no, we're okay. They're backing down. So I understand that they're a protected class, so Muslims feel a bit more, empowered, and they have certain protections that other religious groups don't. I get it. But it's how vocal and articulate and how confident and strong they are in their response. They're not mealy-mouthed. They're not half ashamed. They are, look, we're not here to compromise. We're not here to we're not here to conciliate. There's no middle ground. We're here to tell you, essentially, blank off. Blank off, or this is going to get ugly. And the LGBTQ are like, well, okay, because you see, it's not their children. It's the Muslims' kids. The problem with the LGBTQ community is they want your kid and my kid. Most of them don't have kids. I mean, they just don't. So they want to legitimize their lifestyle, and they want to ram down their agenda by going after our children. So if we stand up for our children, I'm telling you, eventually they will back down. Because they're not fighting for their kids. Most of them don't have kids. And the few that they have, they can be whatever they want. Who cares? They want our kids. They're the aggressor. They're waging the aggression. And I got to give the Muslims their due. They don't put up with any of this. They protest just as hard, if not harder.
We have to wait for the Christian community to become a protected class before we stand up for what we believe in. Our country is lost. We are not supposed to live and wait to be a protected class. We are the protector class. We are the class of people who help all those who are marginalized. And not marginalized because you choose to live a demonic demonic lifestyle. Protector class to help those who want to live in the way the Lord lived and the way Jesus taught us to live, to help each other and to live a good life. And if we don't see that and step forward, our country is lost.
It's finished. You're completely right. It's finished. Well, look, let's go right back to the Bible. I mean, let's just go back to Jesus himself. Was he protected? Were his followers protected? Were they a quote-unquote protected class? No. So what are we waiting for? Gino, thank you very much for that call. Look, honestly, it's just normalcy now. It's not I mean, religion is getting involved. I understand that, but it's just leave kids alone. It's just, I'm asking for a normal functioning society, a civilized society. Whether you're religious, not religious, really, it's just leave kids. Look, you don't sexualize kids. To me, this is like so basic. homosexual sex, heterosexual sex, whatever sexual sex. Okay, transsexual, pansexual, non-sexual. By the way, what the hell does non-binary mean? I know what it means. You're not a man or you're not a woman. But what in real life, what does that mean? Like, I saw some blurb for a movie, which I didn't rent, but they said engaging in non-binary sex. I'm like, how can you engage in, Sex in the City. It was the New York Post yesterday. And they go, sex is back in Sex in the City. And apparently there's some graphic sex scenes in Sex in the City in season 2. And they're like, one of the lead characters is having non-binary sex, according to the New York Post. I'm like, what is non-binary sex? No, I seriously. Like, what is that? So, you're not a male, nor are you a female. So what kind of sex is it? And who are you having sex with? It's just, anyway, I don't want to know. I'm looking like, what? Anyway, let that go. The point is this. Whatever sex it is, it doesn't belong in the classroom. Like, hello? This is even a debate? So, leave kindergarten kids alone. Leave elementary school kids alone. Leave middle school kids alone. And frankly, leave high school kids alone. Don't worry. They'll figure out the birds and the bees. Parents are there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Everybody seems to have figured out how to do it. I don't think you need a how-to manual. I'm just saying. So, this idea of introducing sex in the curriculum, sex in the classroom, sex to kids, it's not normal. All we want is normalcy, and fundamentally, even more basic than that, there are children. It's my Ashton, my Ava. I'm responsible for them, as well as Grace, obviously. So hands off my child. You don't have the right to pollute the brains and souls of my child. You just don't. It's up to me. And there are certain things, they are just too young, too immature, too innocent. It should not be introduced to them. It's a violation. It's child abuse, period. It's not your child, Joe Biden. It's not the government's child. There are children. The parents are responsible for their children. And the Muslims are making this very argument, and they're completely right. This is about childhood innocence, parental authority, and the sovereignty of the family. The parents' rights and the family's rights supersede that of the government. To me, this is how a normal, functioning, free society works. Anything else is totalitarian. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Terry in Dedham. Thanks for holding, Terry, and welcome.
Jeff, this is a textbook case of reckless endangerment of children. Reckless endangerment of children. These transgender men and the parents of the children should be charged. Now, whether they were arrested or not, I'm not sure. They should be criminally charged because it's clearly a case of reckless endangerment of children. The Boston police are not going to bring charges. They should be exposed. If they do bring charges and Wu or Healy interferes and tries to stop the prosecution, they need to be exposed. If I were you, Jeff, I would get the story out. The Globe won't cover it. The Herald will do a little bit with it. I'd go to the New York Post or the other TV program there, not Fox, but the other one. What's the other one?
Newsmax?
Newsmax. I would get the story out nationally. I would be at the forefront of it, Jeff. This needs to be exposed. And keep this in mind. I know because as a former police officer, reckless endangerment charges have to be brought in this case. Have to be.
Oh, I agree. No, I think, to be frank, it was more than endangerment. In fact, it's pretty obvious. Those kids were violated, they were molested, and they were raped. There's no question. And the argument I think these transgender drag queens are trying to use is that the kids consented. And that's the frightening thing now. That argument is increasingly now, well, you know, if a child consents, a child consents. That's just how some people are. They're minor attracted persons. And that's why people now are beginning to turn a blind eye. The movie is coming out. It's called The Sound of Freedom. And I'm going to be plugging it hard. I have nothing to do with the movie. I make no money off of this. It's just dear to my heart. We are now the #1 country in the world. I want you to think about this. When it comes to the trafficking of children, there is a massive appetite and demand in the United States for children as sex slaves. And now it's becoming, in America, it's becoming a bigger business than weapons trafficking, even drug trafficking. And the movie exposes that government agencies are complicit. And Hollywood plays a key role. Key role. They can't get enough young children. And I'm looking at a lot of these transgender drag queens. And now you can see, I mean, they like bees on honey. They see a child, boom. I mean, it's like a beeline. And what I don't get, Terry, I keep asking this question. No one's really answered it to my satisfaction. The women, these young liberal mothers who bring 2, 3, 4-year-old kids, their kids, to drag queen shows. And the drag queens are twerking, gyrating, I mean, doing graphic lewd acts in front of their 2, 3-year-old kids. They even have their kids perform with the drag queens, and they're laughing. It's like, I don't know what, it's like serving up beef to a bear. You know, it's like they're going to devour your child. And you're okay with that? Terry, do you have a theory on that?
I do. I think a lot of these women are lesbians. I think they feel empowered when they get into these bizarre situations. We had one similar in the next town over in Norwood where they had the drag queen story hour. It was actually the members of the drag queen story hour from a group called House of Horrors. And then when you started off your show with House of Horrors, I said, what a thin line exists between these drag queen programs in the libraries and the actual what's going on in some of the apartment buildings. It's really outrageous.
Ugh, it's sickening. Terry, thank you so much for that call. Okay, just very quick, you need to know about this. Kuhner Man is getting flooded. I mean flooded. Text messages, emails from libs, from moonbats. And yeah, they often go after me hard, don't get me wrong. But on this one, they're being especially vicious. We're going to get you. We're going to take you out. You're homophobic. You're transphobic. You're a racist. You're a bigot. You're blah, 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 blah. This transgender drag queen story has really touched a raw nerve. And it's like, we got to get him. We just, by hook or by crook, we got to get the Kuhner Man. So this is what I don't understand. We're talking now about children. 5 to 10 years old. 4 of them that we're aware of in that apartment complex, public housing. And I'm exposing this? And you want to destroy me? And not the pedophiles? Because they're drag queens? They're men wearing lipstick and putting on wigs and having an orgy? And doing drugs and alcohol, and the place was absolutely disgustingly filthy with sex toys everywhere? And I'm the bad guy? So either I'm hitting a raw nerve where I don't know if many of them are transgender drag queens. I mean, I don't know if I'm uncovering something here, some vast network. I have no idea. Or this is the hill they want to die on. which essentially means they want to die on the hill of pedophilia. So is this now what liberalism has degenerated into? Is that what has everything, when everything is said and done, is it about the children? So you really just wanted to molest the kids, sexualize them, molest them, abuse them, and exploit them. Is that now, it's purely satanic now. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because I would figure, at least when it comes to sexually exploiting and abusing and molesting kids, you would be with me on this one. But no. If it's possible, they're after me now harder than, say, when I defend Trump. Or when I'm exposing the crimes of the Biden family. On this issue, we've got to take the Kuhner man out. It is vicious and it is relentless. All morning, it has not stopped. 617-266-6868 is the number. So I've got to ask all of you, why this liberal obsession with transgendered drag queens and transgender drag queens directed at young kids? Why are liberals obsessed and fascinated with it to the point that they're willing to alienate any normal human being? 617-266-6868. Mark in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, big fan. My wife got me into a while back, about the time of COVID. You did it, buddy. You're making gains, and I'm with the movement. You know, I finally saw a stride break in that horse. That horse is broken now. When they start going after the kids, and that's all they got left, they started with COVID. We went to the Ukraine. We went to Afghanistan. We went everywhere. We've been around the world 3 times. Now they finally broke their stride. You expose them. The light is shining. When you are that desperate and you got to go after children, I know I've got you beat now. Now you got nothing left. You threw COVID at me. You shut down the economy. You broke the wallets of every American in this country. And now you want the kids? Well, guess what? You woke up all the mama bears and the papa bears. And when you're that weak and that desperate for a long time, Jeff, I didn't think we had a chance. I'll tell you what, they got deep pockets. They ran a good game. If I was a scumbag, lunatic drug dealer on the streets of wherever, like they're running, they tried it all. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, COVID, everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong, and they got nothing left. I actually see light now. There actually is a chance now because they showed their weakness. They showed that we got nothing left to the fact that you have to actually go to the children. Children are innocent. You program them from day one. They come from birth, and you program them. You want to actually target that? Like, you got nothing left in the wallet. You got nothing left in your arsenal. You're on your last punch. I see hope now. I wanted to end the show on a positive note. I know a lot that's going on in the world is negative. Everything's negative. It's like you look to God. I'm a man of God. You look to God, you pray, and you say, when is the light going to shine? The light shined today on me, Jeff. You shined the light on us, and I'll tell you why. Because they showed their true colors, which they have been, but now you showed your desperation. You have nothing left in your arsenal than to go after innocent children. Ha ha ha. I think I got you beat now.
I agree.
Now it's on.
Mark, I think it's a brilliant call. Brilliant call. This is the exhaustion and the utter moral collapse and bankruptcy now of liberalism, the left, and the Democrats. There's no question now in my mind. I so agree with you. So in a way, it's a sickening story, but you're right. Within that, there's massive hope because you can't win with this. This is going to invite the wrath of the country. It's going to lead to a massive revolt, a massive rebellion. The country will not accept this. So these idiots don't realize they're actually committing political suicide. You know, the mob, you know, you said they had it good for a while. The mob wouldn't go after kids. I'm telling you. They go, listen, look, we got a good thing going here. We got the drugs. We got the prostitution. We got the gambling. We got the extortion. Guys, don't touch the kids. You touch the kids, and they're going to rain hell on us. Even gangsters realize there are some lines you don't cross, but not the Moonbats. Now they've crossed them, and I'm telling you, there's going to be hell to pay. They're finished. They're finished. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, joining us now, as she always does at this time, the CEO, president of Kelly Financial Services, Kelly Kelly. How are you, Kelly?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. From March of last year up until last month, the Federal Reserve raised rates 10 consecutive times. In its mission to tame inflation, the Fed recently decided not to make any adjustment to short-term rates. Why do I bring this up? Well, they plan to bring down inflation to a level that allows for growth without stifling it either. But plans do change. In retirement, plans change too, and a good retirement plan is built to allow for change. At Kelly Financial, we have a workbook that might help. It's called Safe Money Strategies. Retirement planning needs a structure within a process that allows for change when necessary. For your free copy of the workbook and to learn more about how we can help you in your retirement plan, call us or email us at kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I will continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio, along with our Kelly advisors. If you miss it, you can rewind it on our website, kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, Kelly. And to everyone out there, Kelly Financial celebrating their 20th anniversary. Set up a free complimentary financial planning consultation. Call 888-800-1881 or go to kellyfinancial.org, kellyfinancial.org. Rob in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Jeff. Hey, just let's do some general house cleaning, Jeff. Listen, make sure you call our congressman, my opponent, Mr. Steve Lynch, at 1-202-225-8273. He's the one that brought all the funding to Massachusetts for the transgender. Okay, he's the guy. He's been hiding in the corner. Oh, there you go. Reach out, be polite, and ask Steve, why'd you do it? Being with the punishment party and now the pervert party is probably a tough act to follow. But, hey, listen, Jeff, the number one reason, they're just trying to destroy the family. They're just trying to destroy the family, going after the kids because, as you said, they don't have any. And they'll do anything. They're running out of time, Jeff. They're running out of time. This is why they have the acceleration. That's why they always put this stuff in June, by the way, because they know they're going to lose the kids for the summertime. These are evil people, and I'm running for Congress. I get a little down and out sometimes because I don't get any responses for what I'm doing, but it's okay. I'm never going to quit. I'm never going to quit on America. There's no place to go, folks. You have to destroy this country, this state. They'll keep on going. But listen, hey, get on that bridge down in Weymouth on Front Street, okay? Those are the people you want to be with. Get out there and stand with these people, okay? They're good people. They're solid people. And all this stuff with Michelle Wu. Oh, by the way, Jeff, you saw I was on the list, right? The Michelle political hit list. Did you see that?
It's a communist list. Shana Catone was the one who let me know about it. She gave me a heads up. She sent it off to me. Shana said, this is a crazy, crazy list. I'm like, Shana, this is a totalitarian list. This is what they do in communist countries. They put political enemies on a hit list. And Rob, I saw that you were on it.
I'm the number one guy, only probably because the guy's too stupid who put the thing together, put it on there. But anyways, folks, listen, this other team is never going to stop. The more perversion they get, the more they like it. And it doesn't matter. What I'm really pissed off about is the men. Where the hell are the men? What's wrong with you people? They're destroying your children. They're destroying your family, and eventually they destroy you. Grow a set, please, guys. Come out to that bridge on Front Street. This is is bull crap, okay? All I hear about is I'm going to lose my job. You're going to lose your job anyways. They're going to replace you, folks. We're the men, you bunch of cowards. Shame on you.
Rob, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. All the men, all the women, all the parents, grandparents, we've got it. This is enough now. No, we're not taking your transgendered bull crap. I almost said it. Your transgendered BS anymore. It's done. It's over. We don't want Drag Queen Story Hour. It's not coming into our schools. It's not coming into our libraries. We're done. You're not grooming or sexualizing our kids. Period. Like, we just want you to know this is non-negotiable. So get lost. This is only going to end badly for all of you. That we just got to tell the Moonbats. So, take down those pride flags because you're not replacing the American flag. You're just not going to do it. 617-266-6868 is the number. John in the great state of Arizona. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate it. And very quickly, I call it child pedophilia Democrats. But neighbor discussion, we were discussing, about the situations, what's going on, and overall, and just having, and I know he's a liberal. But when we talked about, the child grooming and all these things, he seemed to back off, which I found like a cognitive dissonance from the subject matter, not wanting to address it directly, which I thought was interesting, but on the political side, willing to talk politically about how the Republicans were wrong on all these different things, and it came back to Trump.
Sorry, John, who are you talking about?
My neighbor. I'm sorry.
Oh, your neighbor. Okay.
My neighbor.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was like, okay. So but when you confront him with the child grooming, saying, hey, look, now they're indoctrinating the kids. Now they're sexualizing our kids. Now they're even pushing bills like in California where they can literally, a therapist can now take your child away from the parents. If the therapist and the child say, yeah, I want a sex change operation, and you, the parent, say, you're 12, you're not getting no sex change operation. What are you, nuts? So now they're literally going to seize our children from us. This is now what the liberals are pushing and the Dems in California. When you mention this to your neighbor, I mean, does your neighbor have children? Does he care? Is he worried about any of this?
And he obfuscates the issue by stating, kind of this under the breath, well, this is not going to happen to children, all children, and, we protect our children and things like this. And so he really kind of admits it's a bad thing, right? But on the other side of it moves right back to politics, and it comes down to power. And it's so obvious in the conversation when people avoid talking about the true issues, but they go back to the politics. It's power. They're willing to sacrifice any and everything for power. And to me, it's that obfuscation of the truth and cognitive dissonance from reality. And I come from the liberal bastion, a bastion of liberality here in Tucson, and it is a very common theme. However, in the overall county, we're a very conservative overall county. Even when you get into the city, it comes down to the power. People play along for all these bad things, that are going on with kids and everything for power. They will overlook it. They will not want to talk about it. They will suppress it. They will do anything they can as long as they can overcome and take power. And it comes down to, if you're a conservative, you're evil across the board. There are no Democrats here that think conservatives are decent people. We are the enemy, period.
Oh, no, you're dead. We're the enemy. No, there's no question. Oh, John, there's no question. No question. You're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. And this comes from the media, and this comes from Biden himself. The Democrats now have done such a great job in propagandizing their followers that now you disagree with them, you are the enemy. You're the devil. Your neighbor is evil. Your neighbor is a terrorist. Your neighbor is an insurrectionist. It's pure hatred. That's all they have to offer. And when you describe their love of power, and you're right, it's all about power, that's communism. And that really is. That's the nature of communism. It's all about seizing, holding, and expanding power. Nothing to do with truth, nothing to do with justice, nothing to do with defending, say, the innocence of children. It's everybody is a tool or a weapon to be used in the pursuit of power, even children. And that's what we are now today. And this is, if there's one theme I keep emphasizing over and over again, the Democrats have now become the Communist Party of the United States. There is no difference. It is no longer a tolerant left. It's an intolerant, authoritarian left. And you can see it. Now they're openly saying it. They're not your children. They're our children. They belong to us, to the LGBTQ lobby, to the government, to the state, to Joe Biden. And we know what Joey did with his own daughter. Just her own diary says it. When she was 11, 12 years old, he took inappropriate showers with her, and she basically charges him having molested her. So this is how he treats his own children. How do you think he's going to treat your child? John, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. And then you look at his degenerate son, Hunter. Look us on the laptop. Believe me, I know why they support pedophilia. They are pedophiles. Judy on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Judy, and welcome.
Oh, thanks so much, Jeff, for taking my call. Yes, I just want to talk about your topic about the transgender thing. I remember watching Tucker Carlson one night, and he was talking about how, there are just so many forces trying to break down our culture on every level. And I think this is part of it. This is only 0.4% of our population, I think, but a very well-organized and very powerful movement, to get this to be accepted in our lifestyle and our culture. And I don't know if you remember the day you were talking about Newton High School and their drag queen presentation they were going to have for the high school kids. And I was so revved up that I called Newton High School, but it was Good Friday and everything was closed. And I just want to leave people messages, couldn't get through to any machine, so I called the mayor of Newton. And I was able to get through. He asked for my name. I said I didn't want to leave my name, left him a message, and I said, I have a suggestion for you. Perhaps after you have this presentation by the drag queens saying, what a very a desirable option this is for kids, you might want to follow up with another presentation, following the fantasy through that by the kids who are suicidal now, who have done these things and have been influenced and encouraged to do these things by various adults and medical people, and they are now suicidal. They can't transition. Many of these changes they've made are absolutely irreversible. And for girls transitioning into boys, they have taken all these hormone blockers and whatever. These girls are going bald. They have receding hairlines. They are growing beards. Their voice is lower. they're developing Adam's apples, and most of these changes are absolutely irreversible.
Yeah, they're unalterable. No, and Judy, you're completely right. And more than that, and that's why many of them are now speaking out. I can't tell you how many are now doing documentaries, doing interviews, doing everything they can to get the message out. Exactly what you're saying, that the drugs that they're giving them, whether it's hormone blockers, puberty blockers, chemical castration, whatever, testosterone, that it's their spinal cord is being shattered. Literally, their spinal cord is becoming so weak it's getting severed in certain parts, so they can't walk. They're paralyzed. Their hair all falls out. They get an Adam's apple. Generally, their genitals have been mutilated, gone, finished. Their breasts have been permanently cut off. And then they realize when they're 21, 22, 23, they're all saying, that didn't solve my issues. What I realized was I was suffering from mental issues or personal issues or whatever. And they convinced me that if I just become a man, in case you're a girl, that all my problems would go away. And it didn't. And now I can never have children. I've mutilated my own body. My health has been wrecked and ruined. I'm lucky if I make it to 30 or 35 years old. That these people should be sued for medical malpractice. Now, I want to ask you this, Judy. Krispy Kreme Christie, okay, Manja Christie recently went on CNN, and now he's come out and said that he's attacking Republicans for wanting to ban these transgender operations, these sex change operations on minors, saying that if parents want to have their children mutilate their bodies, cut off their genitals, then they have the right to do it because if the parents consent, they have the right to do it. Well, if Muslims now, because in some cultures they practice this, want to mutilate the genitals of young girls, 9, 10, 11 years old, because they don't want them to enjoy being intimate when they get older. Is Chris Christie now going to support that? So what they're now telling us, this is beyond grotesque, is you have people like Chris Christie saying, we will allow parents to have their children have genital mutilation at 10, 11, 12 years old, as long as the parents consent to it. So is this now the new standard in America, Judy? That we can basically turn our kids into laboratory rats and chop them up and mutilate them, as long as the parents say, okay, well, if Bobby wants to be Barbara or Jenny wants to become Johnny, then go ahead, hack away.
Well, God forbid, right? And I think, Jeff, when these politicians or whoever are talking about these things, I always wonder if this were your little girl or your little boy, would you feel the same? And of course they wouldn't. It's just like, as long as none of these things touch their lives, it's okay for anybody else, And I think that's something they really need to think about. But I guess, Jeff, what I really want to hear a lot more about what's happening on the other side of this, because, there are a lot of situations where these kids are told, you don't have to tell your parents. We can help you accomplish these things, and you don't have to get your parents' approval.
That's right. Yeah, do it behind their back.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's the next frontier. That's what they're now pushing. And here in Massachusetts, in California, they want to get rid of parental consent. So it's not just a war on children. It's a war on the family, and it's a war on parents and parental authority. In other words, I go back to Biden. They're not your children. They're our children. That's not your child. That's the government's child. Now, I'm telling you, that is textbook communism. That's what Marx, Engels, Lenin, you name it. Castro in Cuba, I don't care. Take your pick. In China, Xi Jinping. No, your child, our child. We brainwash them, we indoctrinate them, we do whatever we want to them. And there's nothing you, the parents, can do about it. If not us, who? If not now, when? It's time to protect and defend our children. America, wake up before it's too late. Bye-bye.